Hello, everybody. This is Agrode, part of the Delegation Trust, along with Stalkers and Eon Warped. And we just wanted to walk through the first round Delegation Renewal application. As part of this, before we even start, I just want to make sure that everybody has a quick vocal recognition of who the other folks are. So if you guys could please introduce yourselves, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, hello. My name's at Starkers on the Steam blockchain. I run the Oracle D project, the Andre Grace Football Academy project, and I'm very heavily involved in the Three Speak project as well. So looking forward to doing this. It's a pleasure to be part of the committee, and we hope that we're doing our best to make this process very, very clear for you all, so you can have the easiest time possible filling in your delegation renewal applications.
Eon?
Yeah, hello, I'm Eon Warped. I'm just a general developer and just involved in several projects in here, mainly some development work for the Steemit condenser, as well as Token BB, and also the nitrous sites that you see that's powering the Scott tokens. I'm also excited to be here.
So we put out the first round delegation renewal application. You guys should all be able to see this on the recording. It's on the Delegation Trust account, and it was from 7 days ago, which would be 8/9. So if you have questions about that, feel free to head over to this, and you can go see it in your own. But this thing, I'm going to scroll through it quickly. You can see it's a bit of a monster, and it was a bit of a monster to write, a bit of a monster to get through. So what I wanted to do is just take a moment to go walk through this so that everybody that's on the committee can go share, what did we mean when we said these things? And it's kind of complicated. So how can we break it down? How can we want to make this as easy for people to fill out and participate in as possible. So to be clear, this deals with the delegation renewal applications only. So we're not yet at new delegation applications. Those instructions are going to follow at a later time. And we just want to remind everybody that the due date for renewal applications is going to be September 2nd. So when I'm looking at my calendar here, that's 2 weeks and 3 days, 4 days that you guys are going to have. So it's 2.5 weeks. Hopefully this is enough time for everybody to get this done. So I'm going to go read through parts of this. The Delegation Trust team is excited to kick off the first round of delegation renewal applications. If you have a delegation, you'll need to complete this form by September 2nd in order to be considered for renewal. Failure to apply will likely result in automatic termination of your delegation in its entirety. Is there anything you guys would like to add on that first point?
Not really. Just to say, we're trying to emphasise that it's a pretty serious issue, and we want people to pay attention and do your best to fill out the forms. We will, in my opinion, be lenient if you just can't figure it out for whatever reason. But we want to try to stick to that September the 2nd deadline, because it gives us time to review the renewal applications, and then gives us time for our target date, which is October the 1st, to start rebalancing the current delegations on the blockchain, and then therefore make more Steam delegation available for other projects to apply as new delegations. So we're trying to stick to the schedule. Please do your best to get it out. I'm trying to be lenient where it's reasonable, but yeah, September the 2nd is the date that we're trying to aim for.
Yeah, and a quick clarification here. The automatic termination will just be following the schedule that's specified in the initial Steemit announcement in terms of how the adjustment actually happens over 2 quarters, I believe.
Well, that's for the termination. That's for getting the renewal delegation sort of rebalancing. But this, if you don't apply and you don't contact us, and we've heard nothing by September 2nd, I mean, you should just assume that your delegation is getting terminated. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right, so this post is following the spirit of, meant to be read in conjunction with, and referencing the original Steemit blog post, which describes this committee and the process for delegations. So Steemit was looking to go outsource more of this and to get more community involvement. They stumbled on the three of us, and we're here to go provide sort of the most open, transparent, and helpful communications that we can to go make this a process that everybody in the community has access to. So they announced their process in this post, and we are sort of refining it. Any other thoughts there?
Yeah, from my side, one thing that I'd like to note here is I appreciate that the community is worried that the three of us might not be the right people or whatever. I think at the moment we're trying to support Steemit Inc. in this endeavour. We're trying to do our best to set up a clear, transparent and fair process. And I think what will happen, my feeling as to what will happen, I don't know this for sure, but going forwards, basically, as we get the first round of this out and we prove that it works once or twice, so over the next sort of kind of weeks and months, as we prove this process and refine it and learn from it and make mistakes and hopefully not too many and learn from those and improve the process. Once the process is in place, my understanding is that we will look to either change the team out or expand to bring other volunteers in for helping with the process, and then we'll work with Steemit Inc. to decide who the voting members of that community are. Initially, it's the three of us, and that's purely because Steemit Inc. trust and know us, and understand that we will do the best that we can to make this process as transparent as possible.
All right, so here, while we will do our best to create objective measurements as to the effectiveness of a delegation, this decision to recommend Steemit Inc. makes a delegation remain subjective to the individual members of the committee. We're all three different people and we all have different perspectives. To me, the single most important thing about all of this is that it's a clear, well-written process that's open to everybody. The previous version of this I felt like was very insular, and it was totally unclear, and those things don't lead to fair processes. They don't lead to objectively measured processes, and here we're on an advisory committee to go recommend things to Steemit, and hopefully we do a better job in this second round than what we had, or what started this entire thing. All right, so this round is the initial round and slightly different than later rounds. The delegations that have occurred to date didn't go through the delegation application process. As a result, we incorporated the questions that new delegations have to provide into the delegation renewal process in this first round. And I just want to emphasize, it's the first round only. Generally we'll have a initial application for like the new delegation, and then we'll have renewal applications. They'll be separate and both of them will be shorter. But for this round, we've combined both into one big application because you're basically applying for a new delegation and applying for a renewal all at once for the like 13 to 15 projects that are doing it. So those projects seeking delegation renewal need to complete these questions for the first round by September 2nd. We keep adding that as a reminder that there's a deadline coming up. Other thoughts, gents?
Nothing here.
All right.
No, good to go.
So delegation renewal applications in the future will be substantially shorter and will require a link to the initial application and submitted answers to just the renewal questions, impact to date. That's what that section title is called. We will update the much shorter renewal application questions for the next round. So all three of us have actually gotten people that have contacted us about new delegations. We'd love to give you as much information as we can, but honestly, we're not there yet. We're still all trying to do the delegation renewals. So please bear with us as we march through these so that we can actually start on new delegations.
Yeah, just to make that clearer from my point of view as well, the idea is that this first round will be quite detailed because we want to collect enough information to make fair judgments about the projects and understanding of the history of the projects and where they're at. And then in future renewal rounds, each quarter we'll do a renewal round. Those renewal rounds will be much shorter, more simple questions, so it's much more quick fire. It's just this initial round that's a bit more detailed.
So, reminder, illegitimate use of delegations. Delegations must not be used to enrich the participant of a delegation through upvotes, aka self-voting, or purely by means of beneficiaries gained through the use of a project's platform. Projects shall not use the delegation in any exploitative way that is detrimental to the Steem community, such as to grow a community product or application and then cease to leverage the Steem blockchain. All three of us are super serious about this. We're not providing you delegations so that you can leave. Anyways, we are adding here that delegations must be used for their intended purpose. Delegations are being granted for a specific purpose. Deviation from the stated plan will result in delegation termination warnings and finally termination. Delegations can be used for new purposes with prior approval from the committee without a lapse in delegation by submitting a delegation alteration application to be created later. So So look, use the delegations for what you say you're going to use them for. If you move away from that, you'll get warnings, and eventually we'll get rid of your delegation. And if you want to change it, that's okay. You just got to come back to the committee and say, hey, I want to change it, and then we can review it, and we're going to put that through the process. But then you could be approved for that too. Other thoughts, gents?
Yeah, from my side, I mean, this obviously leans back to several projects. We don't need to name any names here, I guess, but we all know who the projects are that have come, used the Steam blockchain, used delegations, and then left and made successes of their projects. In the future, I think it says a little bit further down in the document here that we will be intending to have projects that get delegations sign an agreement that they will not leave the blockchain, and that they will remain with Steam as a core function of their projects for up to, I believe it's a year, after their delegations have been demobilized. And the whole point of this is that if we're going to use the Steam delegation pots to allow a project to become successful by building a community on Steam via incentivization through delegation, we should do the best as a community as possible to keep those projects on the blockchain and oblige them to stay if they become a success and after they've had their delegation, so that we don't lose that value that we create using the Steam blockchain and give it away to something else at a later time. And I think the rest of the community feels that kind of strenuous point and wants a solution to it. So we're hoping to offer the solution via this method here.
Legitimate use of delegations, account creations, incentivizing users for purpose of growing the Steam user base, incentivizing users for the purpose of increasing revenue, which is then powered up. So hopefully none of that is all too shocking to anybody. We want new businesses and new communities to form here. If you're helping to do that, then that's sort of like the first baseline test.
One other thing before we move on from there, we'll touch on it in a bit more detail a bit further down, but where it says which is then powered up, I think the three of us agree that we're looking to also incentivize projects to burn a certain proportion of their revenue in order to restrict Steam supply and lock value into the blockchain. So powered up, and if projects are burning, that will be looked upon more favorably as well as we go forwards.
Yeah, and keep in mind, not every project on the Steam blockchain has to go power up or burn, but if you're looking for a delegation from this committee, those are going to be expectations that we're going to try to enforce.
Yeah. For certain projects, though, not all projects are going to have to burn. Obviously, there's some projects that have got specific niches that they're focusing in, or community developments that they don't necessarily bring a profit in, but they provide a service to the blockchain that they won't be able to burn necessarily. But we're looking to move it in that direction.
The other point that I want to mention here is that also the expectation here is that eventually the project should not be completely dependent on the delegation, right? So it should have a plan for being able to not rely on the delegation, and powering up is actually part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things in the application, as far as I remember, is that there will be a delegation demobilization process. So the idea is, okay, we're going to have delegation for so much time, and then we're going to demobilize that delegation after 18 months or maybe 2 years or something like that. There should be a clear plan to get rid of the delegation as you go forward and build your projects out.
All right, so baseline. Here's the simple question that we need to affirm before approving a delegation. Will you provide more benefit to the ecosystem than if we were to make burn posts with the same amount of delegation? If your project can't outpace burn posting and value added to the ecosystem, then you are unlikely to receive a delegation. A burn post is when a post is created, votes are received, and all SB rewards are powered down and burnt, and all liquid rewards are immediately burnt. So that to me is the litmus test. If you can't outpace us just burning all the steam that could have otherwise been created, then that, to me, it says your project isn't ready for a delegation. Other thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, just to make it clear, this isn't a hard and fast thing that we're saying. That we're going to measure if you would have burned, did your project bring in more value? But the idea is, if you can think in that way, is your project bringing in more value than if you were to just burn all the steam that's distributed to your posts, basically? Because of course, burning the steam locks the steam up and pushes the steam price higher. And so the question is if we're using your project to distribute steam to the community, which is then likely to be sold, is the value that your project's going to bring in worth more than the selling pressure provided by the delegation and the rewards from that delegation? And then the litmus test, as Agro was saying, is if we were to burn all that steam, then you wouldn't have to worry about measuring it, because you know that you kind of keep your zero baseline is burning all of the steam that will be distributed. Question is are you bringing in more value and locking that value into the chain such that it's worth giving a delegation to?
Clarifications. If any question is not clear, we request that you do 3 things. Post your clarification question in the comments below, referencing the question number of the application. We will soon release a video walkthrough of this blog to help clarify what our intentions for each question are. Please make sure you watch this, meaning this video right now, and then attend our town hall forum for delegation renewal applications, time and date to be published once we have the first round of clarifications in the comments below. That's actually going to be this Sunday, which is the 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern or 5 p.m. UTC. So if this video doesn't supply enough answers to you, or if you're actually one of the people looking for the renewal to go through the renewal delegation process, you're going to want to join us at Sunday at 1 p.m. if you're able. All right, so this is the initial delegation renewal form. This is the actual thing that we're looking for people to fill out. Everything before this was just sort of an introduction, but now this is the actual thing that we're looking for people to fill out. So, initial delegation renewal form. Each project which has an existing delegation shall fill out the information in the below form and post to the tag delegation renewal. You'll also note that there's a delegation app as a tag. That's for new delegations. The renewal delegations are under delegation renewal as a tag. Each project shall fill out the same information in this Google form. So you can use the same information twice. One is going into the form so that we can compare data across projects, and one is going into post so that everything is based on language that has been preserved on the Steam blockchain.
Just want to reiterate there that this is not for new delegations for now. We're only dealing with renewals of existing delegations, and then from that process we'll learn, and then we'll open it up to new delegations in probably a couple of months from now.
Payment. So provide the transaction ID and image of the application fee. Test, meaning that the test tier, which is up to 100,000 Steam power, we're going to charge 40 SBD. The mid tier is 65 SBD, and the top tier, up to 1 million Steam power, is going to be 100 SBD to have your application reviewed. The payment, we're looking to have this burnt. We're not like accepting payment ourselves. We're not going to go take this money. We're going to go burn the Steam. We believe that burning Steam is powerful for this ecosystem. And if you want, you don't have to burn Steam, but if you want to apply for this delegation, you do.
Yeah, and I'd like to reiterate, because I'm not sure fully what you meant there, Agrod, but my view of this is I would like to see the projects doing a transaction to burn this much Steam themselves, and then provide the transaction ID in the delegation application.
Yep, exactly.
And also, I remember there were a couple of questions from people about the price of this. This only applies currently to renewals, delegation renewals. And the idea is that those projects that have got delegations already have had a significant amount of time to make significant amount of Steam on the network. And we believe they should easily have 40, 65, and 100 SBD available to do this. For future new delegation applications, we don't know exactly what the prices will be yet, but we will certainly address the idea of lowering the prices for new applications.
Project information. Please limit your responses in this section to 140 characters. 1. Company name. 2. Place of incorporation. 3. Token name, if applicable. Token type, ERC20, Steam Engine token, SMT, etc. Project type, for business, flagging project, community, others please specify. So one thought that I had on this was that place of incorporation. Not every single project is going to have a place of incorporation. If you're only on the Steam blockchain, then put Steam blockchain. But we're also very interested in having contracts with groups. So if your only place of incorporation is the Steam blockchain, this group will expect some KYC in return, or you'll have to provide some details of who you are so that we can actually hold another group accountable if you're not an actual organized incorporation. Other thoughts?
Correct. Yeah, nothing from me.
Existing delegation received. When did you get the delegation? Under what terms did you receive the delegation? What was the intended purpose for the delegation? How have you applied your delegation for that purpose? How long are you requesting the continuation with the delegation? So, this one isn't going to be part of all the other delegation applications, either new or renewal, because we should have applications and we should have some understanding of this. But because we're walking into this for the first time and we don't know sort of under what conditions did you receive the delegation, we have to go ask these questions to sort of get a sense of that to begin with.
And I'd just like to add as well that it may be the case that some of the existing projects also don't know exactly the reason that they have the delegation from a kind of formal agreement point of view. So if you don't know the exact reasons and you kind of got the delegation because you were doing some cool things and you got a cool delegation because you've been successful in whatever you were doing, please write under this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 where you see it came from and what you see it as, and kind of define your scope as to what your purpose of having the delegation is.
Market. Please limit responses to 300 characters. What problem is the product or project solving? Core team details. Please limit responses to 500 characters for each team member. Write short summaries about each core team member, including their achievements to show they have a strong track record. Add links to their LinkedIn profiles to this section. Minimum.
All right.
Just
want to say not just LinkedIn. It can be because not everyone has a LinkedIn profile, but I guess some people might have an Upwork profile or some other way of demonstrating their kind of track record as to what they've done. So add some evidence, basically.
Yeah, GitHub might work if you're a dev. Minimum viable products. Please limit responses to 500 characters per product. Provide links to your minimum viable products and describe it. If it is not available, please describe it and include how you plan to build it and when it will be built. Just in case somebody doesn't know the term minimal viable product, do you want to go explain that briefly?
I mean, my view is just a working prototype, basically, that you can put a link to that demonstrates that you guys have achieved some app that interfaces with the blockchain, uses Steam at its core. So, for example, with the Oracle D project, we'll have the Oracle D task platform, we'll have Andre Gray's Football Academy website. We've got the 3Speak platform that we've built, and we've also built another platform which we'll probably link to as well. And these platforms all are not full end versions, but they are they interface with the Steam blockchain. They work with the Steam blockchain at the core of the app, and they eventually, as they're built out to the final models, will bring value to the Steam blockchain. So we're looking for other projects to add those links as well to their own minimum viable products.
Business strategy. Please limit responses in this section to 250 characters per question. Fiat revenue strategy. Example, we plan to sell NFTs which represent in-game items for US dollars. Fiat revenue projections in dollars per user every month. This means that we're expecting $10 per user. How will your business strategy increase the amount of Steam being powered up and or burnt? What financial incentives are you willing to provide to Steemit Inc. and or the Steam community in return for the delegation? What's your skin in the game, as in project tokens, revenue share, otherwise? Without a return, there's not a partnership. It's simply a contribution, and one that's easily left behind. In order to encourage businesses and communities to commit to the Steam blockchain and ecosystem long term, there needs to be both a contract and a mutually beneficial partnership. So I want to be clear, Steemit didn't tell us to write this. We put that in. So we think you need a revenue strategy. If you're applying as a business, you should be making money as a business. Just like other businesses, you should have projections about what you're expecting to come in. One of the key metrics of all of this entire ecosystem is how much Steam is being powered up and how much is being burnt. So part of the business strategy and part of the metrics and part of just about everything involved in this, we're looking at Steam being powered up and or burnt. And then one of the last pieces here is this financial incentive. And I think there's a fear on our side that it might be reviewed as just like a shakedown. Here, give us some money. But it's not just meant to be like you guys have to contribute. This is how we get a meaningful partnership. And the other projects, we're not here to donate to you. This isn't a charity event. This is something where we expect Steemit to make money from this and to be able to continuously invest back into other community projects. So if you'd like to see this thing be cyclical, it can't just be a constant series of giveaways. It has to be this kind of mutual partnership that keeps happening so that, frankly, we just are able to keep paying it forward and bring new projects and new communities to the chain.
Yeah, I also want to add to that where there's a pot of Steam, so Steam's obviously limited. So let's say there's 1 million Steam left over and there's one more large size delegation to give away, and we've got, say, 3 projects that are all trying to vie to get access to that Steam. The likely scenario is that one of them will get it if it's a larger project for that 1 million Steam delegation. Now, what we'll have to do is use the review criteria that we're setting out in this blog to compare the projects. But let's say that the projects come out with very similar value propositions, with very similar revenue models and very similar kind of systems where they're going to make a similar amount of money and add a similar amount of value to the blockchain. So it's very hard to distinguish between the different projects apart from their fundamental ideas. What we will likely do, and this isn't something we definitely will, but the likely scenario is that the project that is offering to give the most of its tokens to the Steam community or burn the most Steam, or a combination of the two, will be the one that likely gets the delegation, as compared to another project that does a similar value proposition but doesn't burn as much Steam and doesn't offer to the Steam community as many of its tokens. So,
or isn't planning on powering up as much. Those are going to be all the different criteria that we look for. And like you said, it's likely. We haven't set the firm standards in those things yet, but that's certainly what we're looking for.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit of a different one on powering up. I think powering up is a beneficial thing, but ultimately Steam gets powered down eventually and sold. So it's all, the burning, in my view, trumps the powering up, and that's something that I think will weigh slightly heavier than a power up. Of course, power up better than not powering up at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the general consensus. Ian, any thoughts here?
The only thought I have here is that in terms of there are other potential value things that bring value to the Steam ecosystem, as for instance of onboarding new users, but I think that eventually would translate to a projection of revenue as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be projects that clearly bring value that don't necessarily lock and burn in Steam, but they bring more value in a more indirect way that will also be weighed up in that evaluation.
There's a 5th question here that I had hidden, but are you or how will you become financially sustainable once the delegation is removed? And to Eon's point, these delegations are not meant to be permanent fixtures. Your business has to stand on its own. If it can't stand on its own without the delegation, it's probably not much of a business. It's just, hey, we can distribute Steam at stake for them. Well, we don't necessarily need help distributing Steam at stake. We want more businesses and communities to form here, and hopefully this delegation can amplify what you're doing. But if it's not bringing in new users, and it's not bringing in new eyeballs, and it's not burning Steam, and it's not providing new value, you're just distributing it. You're not gonna get this delegation, and you're certainly not gonna keep it.
Yeah.
All right, KPI progress measurement. Please limit each KPI description in this section to 100 characters. Suggest at least 3 KPIs per project with which to measure the progress of your projects in its or their current phase. KPIs must be measurable and objective, a percentage or numerical value, or binary, yes or no, completed or not completed. Please note, KPIs are to be reviewed and evaluated by the committee in the next quarter. KPI descriptions shouldn't change without a change request form. Targets will be adjusted every quarter in future applications, and refer to this post for sample suggested KPIs. I guess we didn't define a KPI, but somebody want to say what a KPI is? I can. Yeah. A KPI is a key performance indicator. So this is business language speak, which is really designed to be like, how do we track whether or not you're hitting targets? It's all well and good to say we're going to do this, but if you can't measure along the way, you can't really evaluate along the way. So these are the things that are going to provide data to us to evaluate of what is your target, like how are you moving along towards that target? Are there red flags saying that like, oh God, these guys aren't making any progress? Or is it like you're blowing away your targets and we should be really excited for your project? And you're the one that's the people that are submitting the applications are the ones that are defining the ones that are most valuable to them or what they're going to measure. So we've put out some suggestions. Those suggestions are not written in stone. You still get to determine what are the key things that you are tracking. But if you can't track them and you can't give us public numbers, it's hard to hold you accountable. It's hard to hold us accountable. So that's why these are in here.
Yeah, that's a great description of Groid. And I think also with the other standardized stuff in the document, it's comparing project to project. But we wanted to include this key performance indicator section because we appreciate that not all projects are equal. You can't compare apples to apples in all cases. So we want the projects themselves to be able to suggest their own targets and make them reasonable, make them objective, make them something that we can actually measure and agree whether that target was hit or not. So that might be something as simple as, were you building a minimum viable product and what was the date you were planning to build that? And then when the delegation renewal process completes every quarter, which every project will be reassessed every quarter, we'll be able to then refer back to the KPI and check, hey, was this KPI met? Did they build the app that they said that they were going to build? Maybe they missed the target slightly, but now they're guaranteeing that within the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they're going to hit that deadline. It's not so far behind. Or, can we then identify alternatively on the negative side that they didn't build the app, they didn't meet the target, and it's clear there's no work being done in that direction? Then we need to start asking questions as to whether, is the delegation in the right place? Maybe there's another project that's more hungry that can get the work done, that kind of can meet those targets that they're saying they're going to meet. So maybe it's worth for the whole STEAM community to redelegate that delegation somewhere else. So KPIs, tailor them to your projects and use them to show the community that you guys are hitting the targets that you originally set.
Token offering. Please limit responses to each question in this section to 10 characters. Token launch date, total token supply at launch, fundraising target, yearly inflation, percentage of token supply that will be airdropped to all Steam stakeholders in proportion to their Steam power. How many tokens and what percentage of your token supply will you offer Steemit Inc., the Steam community, in exchange for the delegation? Do you plan to launch an IEO, ICO, STO, or other public token offering? Do you plan to raise money from other investors? What is the vesting period for the following team members, early seed round investors, ICO investors? What is the percent distribution to team, marketing? If you haven't tokenized but still provide a service, please describe the service and the amount of that service that you're offering to perform for Steemit and or the Steam community in exchange for the delegation. So this goes back to the thought of we're not a charity organization. We're trying to build a sustainable ability to keep attracting new businesses and new communities to this platform. Tokens, we imagine, are going to be a large part of that, whether they're Scott, SMT, ERC20, Tron based. There's a lot of, maybe they're just like normal stocks. It's not meant to be picking any one given token platform, but it's just meant to say, all right, you've done this, you're putting together a token. How are you planning on what are the economics of the token, and then how can we evaluate the value that you're trying to provide to us?
And I guess that would also potentially include equity as well. I think we could probably accept equity if you weren't tokenizing.
Yep.
The idea for me is that this is exactly the same as the Steam burn. So if we have two projects that are identical in terms of the value they're going to bring as evaluated by this process, and one token's offering to burn the same, one's offering to as the other one, and the other one's offering to power up the same as the other one, but then it comes to the token offering and they're clearly providing a better return to the Steam community via their token offering, then they will be the ones that are more likely to get that allocation of delegation. So just try to appreciate that, this is your opportunity to give to demonstrate that you're going to give value back to the Steam community via your token offering.
Delegation request. Please limit responses in this section to 10 characters. How much of a delegation are you requesting? Limit your request to one of the 3 tiers, top tier, mid tier, or test tier. Specify the desired time frame for the delegation in 6-month increments. Which one of the following answers best describes how the delegation will be used to add direct value to Steam? It will be used to create new accounts. It will be used to give new accounts 15 Steam power to give them the resources to use Steam and purchase goods and or services through our platform. It will be used to incentivize the creation of content that promotes Steam, your project, on external platforms. It will be used to provide limited trial or discount services to clients to encourage them to hold and delegate in the future, or other. Please describe. And, the piece to me is that there can be multiple good reasons of why a project might be requesting delegation, but what you provide in this is the full scope of what you are going to be allowed to use it for. So, you just got to make sure that you are consistent with why you're asking for it and what you're doing with it.
Yeah, and just to make it clear there, so the top tier is the 1 million Steam. The mid tier, if I remember rightly, is 500,000 Steam, and the test tier was 50,000 Steam.
I thought it was 100,000, but it's in the doc.
100,000, sorry. It's in the doc.
It's in the doc.
But the idea behind the test tier is that you're not necessarily going to grow a huge community from the test tier, but you will be able to test concepts and ideas with it. So the test tiers will be, the evaluation process for them will be much less stringent. And it will be the kind of temporary thing where, maybe it's a 3-month thing, maybe maximum 6 months, and it just gets automatically removed, with the idea that after you've had your test your delegation for a few months, have you made a proof of concept to prove that whatever your idea was actually works, and the technicals behind it work, and you've got some Steam there that you can actually use to test that model, and then potentially move up to the mid tier or the top tier after that, if it's successful. Is there anything else that we want to touch on the delegation there? Could we just scroll back up a little bit? Yeah, I mean, the other thing I want to, it's right here, is I don't see why a project should need a delegation for more than 18 months or 2 years maximum. If they're a startup and they're just kind of starting out, building a community, building a minimum viable product, and then getting that rolled out and taking it to market. Does it need to be more than 18 months, 2 years? I think that's probably around about the limit. And the idea is that you should build your project in the way that you think, okay, 2 years from now, where are we going to be, and how are we going to be able to give that Steam back to Steam Inc. such that in, say, the 6 months before that 2-year period or the 18-month deadline, have you started to bring money into Steam? Have you started to make your project sustainable, so that you can actually survive without the delegation? So that, it wasn't all in vain, basically, and there was a reason for giving the delegation, and you become sustainable after that delegation period. That's all I got on that section.
Yeah, the one thing here is that I believe that earlier when we were mentioning that your delegation should be very specific in what you would use it for, I believe that this section probably would be needed to clarify, any kind of guidelines. Because, I mean, of course, some of these will apply for many accounts, but you also need to specify, if you're going to use it to incentivize creation of content, what exactly is the nature of that incentivization.
Yeah, especially with experiences with other projects where they've suddenly switched the nature of their use of their delegation. It's important that the Steam community is able to hold projects to account, that they use their Steam delegations for what they originally said it was for.
Agreement. We agree that our business will continue to leverage the Steam blockchain as long as we are receiving a delegation and 1 year following the removal of the delegation. During this time, we also agree to promote the Steam blockchain as a valuable technological protocol that delivers unique value. We are willing to sign a legally binding contract with Steemit Inc. to this effect. So, again, this goes back to place of incorporation. So if you have a corporate entity, then you are going to be signing as the CEO, director, president, or whatever of your business or entity. If you are an individual asking for this, you are going to have to go provide your personal details, and we are going to find out who you are so that we can hold you accountable, because we don't want we don't want any project to go get the benefit of this delegation and then leave. You can leave eventually, but we've set a 1-year time frame so that you don't just take it and scram, but you're providing benefits back to the Steam ecosystem long enough to make sure that we can recoup the investment, meaning we, the community, can get the benefit.
Yeah.
All right, renewal questions impact to date since the start of delegations. So we've put together a handy form. It's also in a Google spreadsheet. So we're going to go down to these questions that are below, and we can go, these questions just relate back to what we just saw in the form. So questions, where applicable, fill in the tables above. Please fill out the answers to these questions as best as you can. If it is not applicable to your project, please put NA. You will be asked to upload spreadsheet data into the Google form. You can clone samples from here. So the questions are, how many new accounts have been created using your project's account this quarter? How many Steam accounts are interacting with your project? This includes guest accounts as well as Steam user accounts. How many guest non-Steam accounts are interacting with your project? How many impressions is your project getting? What is the total quarterly US dollar value of rewards dispersed directly tied to the delegation? How much external revenue have you generated in US dollars per quarter? Do not count Steam income from curation or voting. How much revenue have you brought to Steam as measured by total Steam powered up through your project's Steam accounts? How much Steam is delegated to your project to manage on behalf of your clients? How much Steam power is delegated to your project from the Steam community? For the KPIs listed above, back report progress for the duration of the delegation on a quarter-by-quarter basis. How much Steam SPD has your project burned? Describe what value the project continues to bring to the Steam community and why the community should continue to support your project. Describe your project roadmap with expected timelines and milestones. So this, to me, this section, this entire section, this is the renewal application. Everything prior to this is really like a new application. This is really the heart of the renewal applications. And going forward, the renewals are really just going to be limited to trying to fill out this table and answer these questions, because we'll know the basics of the project prior to getting to this point. At this point in the first round, we don't know that, so we have to go back and do both the new and the renewal application. And then we really want to have this chart so that we can compare all of the projects against one another and just make sure that, it helps set the baseline for what we should be pushing projects to achieve. Are there parts to these questions that you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, just generally on this point, I want to emphasize that we appreciate that the way we're putting this together regards to burning Steam, regards to bringing money in from different clients, it hasn't necessarily been the culture on Steam up until now. I don't think that's been clearly laid out in the initial delegation processes that have happened prior to this. I think that one of the things that we're trying to do with this is emphasize, look, we want your projects to bring value back into the blockchain and lock it in, right? And contribute to raising the Steam price in some way. I want to emphasize that we fully appreciate that's not been the case until now, and that maybe some of these stats will be zeros for your project, right? It might be that you just didn't sign any accounts up, or that you didn't burn any Steam. It's very likely that none of the projects have burned any Steam. Or clients didn't bring Steam in and delegate to your project over this previous period where you've had the delegation. But the idea is that we want to set something running now so that it's a standard of you are expected to bring money in, you're expected to power Steam up, whether it's through your own project or through your clients delegating to your projects. We want to see that the projects that have the biggest delegations and any delegations on Steam reflect that in their numbers as they go forwards, such that the Steam community can see, we've given this delegation to this project, and they actually are bringing new users in. They actually are bringing Steam in. Their clients actually are buying Steam. Their clients are actually powering Steam up, and things like this. And so we can have measurable, reportable stats that show that the delegations are bringing value back into the Steam blockchain for the eyes of the community.
Jan?
Yeah, I mean, these are good all of these kind of points are things that we think that provide value to the system, and it lays it out for us to see the measurements over time. The one thing I would add here is that, there's still a rubric that we would determine, and it all, it all would depend on what kind of project you are as well. So for instance, like the one thing that comes to mind now is we will have something probably fairly different looking at projects that are doing abuse or other things like that.
Yeah, so those types of projects don't necessarily bring Steam in via clients, but they provide other valuable services. The other thing I want to note here is kind of the importance of people understanding that you may have zeros here, right? It's not the end of the world if you have a quarter or 3 quarters in a row of zeros. What we're trying to track is, over time, from this initial point, are projects growing? Are projects continuously adding more value? Are projects continuously improving their statistics? Or are projects dying, right? And if those projects are slowing down for whatever reason, we need to be able to say to them, hey, what's going on? How can we help improve this? And if we just can't improve it for whatever reason, maybe we need to reallocate that Steam delegation to a project that's got more potential. The other thing as well is that we are relying on the Steam projects to report accurate numbers here. So if they report numbers that are erroneous or outright lies, the way that we will do that is we will carry out spot audits of projects. We don't know exactly what that strategy looks like yet, but over time we will have to do spot audits, and we will be selecting projects either at random or based on feedback from the Steam community. If the Steam community suspects that one of the projects is lying and can provide some evidence, then we will have to carry out full audits on those projects to ensure that the numbers that were provided are accurate and are honest. And if they are not, there will be obviously consequences for that happening.
So I also want to share that we're trying to go make this into a clear process for everybody, and that by having sort of set standards, set goals, set everything, this isn't something that's done in a dark room somewhere where you don't have any kind of insight into what the evaluation criteria is. The whole thing is done publicly, openly, with a clear process that everybody can participate in. And it's not this isn't designed to hurt any one given type of project or anything like that. We're really trying to, it's hard to do a one size fits all document, but that's what we're aiming to do here, where we are providing, we've thought through to the best of our ability what provides value to the Steam ecosystem. And then we're asking questions about that to ensure that the projects are thinking of ways that they are providing value, and then we can compare across the board what's providing the most value to the Steam ecosystem. And then the sort of last question would be, you guys are providing value to the Steam ecosystem. Are you also providing direct value back to Steam it to be able to go fund future enterprises and ensure that this whole endeavor can grow over time and can facilitate the Steam blockchain growing? Those are at least my intentions, and I think they're echoed by the 2 other members here.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to add, just at the end of this, that we also fully appreciate this is the first time that we're doing this. I've been involved in several processes like this in my past. I think Agroid has as well in different entities outside the blockchain world. But we appreciate that this is the first time this is being done on Steam. So, like Agroid said, to the best of our abilities, we've done this, and we are really looking to learn and improve the process as we go forward. So we're looking for feedback from the community. We will do our best to address every point, as I hope that you're satisfied we've done so far. And once we get the process to a point where it's quite slick and smooth, and most of the issues have been resolved, and the items have been clarified that need to be clarified, because we appreciate we might not have clarified every item as well as we could do in this video here. My intention is to go back to Steam Inc. and say, hey, can we start bringing other volunteers in from the community? Can we start getting representation from other parts of the community to do this process? And as long as we can work out a way that we can trust people to continue it in the same open way that we've been doing, then I don't see why there's any reason that can't be expanded out as time goes on.
All right, so closing thoughts on this. Anybody want to share something before we wrap it up here?
I'd just like to say that this process to me is the first thing that I've seen on Steam where it's a professional, kind of transparent, formal process for some of the larger interactions that happen on the Steam blockchain. And I think that overall gives a very positive outlook for the Steam blockchain and a kind of more professional outward view. And it allows investors to see that we're serious about the way that we handle our Steam delegations and the way that we invest in different projects that are coming onto the blockchain. And I think that gives a lot of credibility to the Steam community and hopefully to the value of the Steam token going forwards. So looking forward to working on this.
Ian, any final thoughts?
I don't have any final thoughts. It's all very excited to get this process moving finally. Yes.
All right. Well, I'd just like to say thank you to the two other guys that are. We've spent hours trying to put this together and do our best to work with Steemit to put together a transparent application process that's clear, that has good metrics, that's measurable, and we're doing everything we can to make this successful and to ensure that the delegations that go out add value to the Steam ecosystem and that it's sustainably adding value to the Steam ecosystem. We appreciate that it's a bunch of work to get these delegation applications done, but we would also say you're getting a fair amount of value for the delegations you're receiving. So we're hoping that the projects are able to go deliver these and get them together in the next 2.5 weeks. We think that should be enough time. And then we also hope to go address concerns by the community. So I just want to remind everybody that this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. UTC, we're going to have, it's August 18th, we're going to be having a forum on MSP Waves, so you can go, we'll record it, it'll be public, and the public can ask questions, and really if there's things that we haven't detailed here, or if as the different renewal people that are applying, if they're going through this and having questions that even this discussion hasn't addressed, we want to go be available and try to help you. We want to help you succeed. We want to help these projects be valuable. So I do want to say thank you. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. This recording will be made available on the Delegation Trust account, and when we finish the town hall on Sunday, that discussion about delegation renewals will also be available. So thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Steemit. Thank you to the community. Thank you for the projects that are going through the application. And we look forward to building the best Steam ecosystem that we can. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.